What's happening? Thank you for stopping by to visit the channel for this upcoming game preview of Ohio State versus Penn State. If this is your first time visiting this channel and you want to hear a different take of college football from an analytical perspective, if you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and select all so you don't miss another video. Also, like the video and share the video. It helps this small channel grow. And at the end of the video, please give me your score prediction in the comment section below, even if you agree or disagree with my score prediction. So folks, we already know why you're here. Let's go ahead and get started the same way we always do, with the tail of the tape of advanced metrics. So in reviewing the tail of the tape, it looks like neither team has an advantage over the other, whether we're talking about offense versus defense for both teams. The overall ratings, Penn State is power rated at number 1, which is a slight surprise to some people. Ohio State is a top 3 team in my advanced metrics. And for Ohio State, they're the only team in my model rated in the top 10 in both offense and defense. Penn State defense is really solid, one of the best in the country, but as we can tell here, no advantages over the other when we're adjusting for overall quality in the metrics of F+, which is the combination of Bill Connolly's SP+ rating and Brian Freemo's FEI. So when you review these advanced box scores, the one thing that you really need to notice is green is considered really good, red is considered very, very bad. So when we review this advanced box score of Ohio State and Purdue, a lot of green over on the side and scarlet and gray, a lot of red on Purdue's side. So that Ohio State defense against Purdue, I mean, they were just really suffocating. Probably they put together their best performance with regards to being able to stop the runs at or behind the line of scrimmage. Ohio State's defense stopped Purdue running game at 34.4% stuff rushes allowed. And with Ohio State, their offense late down EPA at 1.44, which is very exceptional. That is actually in the 99th percentile. So you kind of notice a theme with Ohio State this year. They are really good on late down offense, very solid on early downs as well, and also points per opportunity. Anytime the Buckeyes got within scoring position, which is inside the opponent's 40-yard line, they averaged 6 points per scoring opportunity. So this was as a dominating a performance as they put together, and Ohio State has had these performances throughout the year, but you can kind of see how Ohio State is slowly rounding the form a little bit as well. I do find it interesting that Penn State put up the same amount of points as they put up against Delaware. Both of those games, they scored 63 points, and this was just as bad as the advanced box score is showing here. A ton of red on the UMass side. This game was in garbage time, 47.8% of the time. You know, there's not really a whole lot I can say here. The only thing that I can say about this is that if Penn State was to struggle against a team like UMass, I think this would have said a lot about them in a negative way. So when you see this box score and how Penn State dominated this game, you still have to be impressed with how they took lesser competition and utterly destroyed them. And I have said this for years, a team like UMass, they are an FBS school, but they are masquerading as an FCS school. So didn't really expect Penn State to struggle here, but I think if they did, there would have been a lot of alarms in this game. So hats off to Penn State for being able to take care of business and doing it the way that they are supposed to do. So when Ohio State has the ball, they're going to go up against a really good Penn State defense. When you adjust for opponent, even with Penn State playing the opponents that they have played on an FBS level, I throw out FCS games only because it doesn't really tell us a whole lot. But FBS versus FBS opponents, Penn State has the top defense in success rate as well as EPA, also scoring rate, defensive opportunity, defensive points per opportunity, and also defensive sack rate and early down EPA defense. So this is a really strong defense. Very elite in a lot of these categories here. The one thing that sticks out is Penn State's ability to really slow people down on early down EPA defense, but they're going to go up against an Ohio State offense that is very elite on early down EPA offense. So I think one of the keys to this game that I'm keeping my eye on is how effective Ohio State is going to be on early down offense as well. So this is the best offense that Penn State will have seen this season. And on the flip side, you can say the same for Ohio State. Their offense is going to face a really good defense in Penn State. But you can kind of say that Ohio State, they have been prepared somewhat going up against Notre Dame's defense, even though Notre Dame's defense is not as highly rated as Penn State. They did give them a little bit of trouble, but you can kind of see in that game against Notre Dame that Kyle McCord really came into his own, especially on that last drive, which pretty much won the game for him. So this is going to be another test for the Buckeye offense. Another thing that I think that we should all keep an eye on is Ohio State's ability to generate scoring opportunities. Sixth in the country in offensive scoring rate, but offensive points per opportunity, they average around 5 points per scoring opportunity. So going up against a Penn State defense that they don't allow a lot of scoring chances and they give up less than a field goal on points per opportunity, it's going to say a lot about Ohio State's offense and can they generate those scoring chances, and also can they finish drives. Penn State has been notorious for stopping people inside the 40-yard line. So on the flip side, when Penn State has the ball versus the Buckeye defense, this is going to be the best defense Penn State will have seen this year so far. The Buckeye defense is very elite in most of the major categories, with the exception of defense sack rate. And when you looked at the box score earlier for Ohio State against Purdue, they were at, I think between 7 or 6% as far as their defensive sack rate. So Ohio State is not really as good getting to the quarterback as Penn State is. So they're not particularly as disruptive. That is really not how their defense is built. So even though they're not as disruptive at the point of attack, they don't really generate a ton of run stuffs at or behind the line of scrimmage, but they are extremely effective. First in the country in pass defense per game, EPA rush defense, 8th in that metric as well, and also second in overall defense EPA as well. So this is a really solid defense, even though they may not be as particularly disruptive up front. They do a lot of things well. They don't give up a lot of explosive plays. Penn State, almost dead last in offensive explosiveness. So this is going to be a tough time for Penn State from what I'm looking at here, with their ability to not generate explosive plays at a very high clip. But when you look at Penn State, they are very effective in generating scoring opportunities. First in the country in offensive scoring rate and 8th in the country in offensive points per opportunity. But on the flip side, you also have Ohio State 6th in defensive scoring rate and 8th in defensive points per opportunity. One of the things that I'm going to look at here is, can Drew Allar be able to navigate against that Ohio State pass defense? So if Ohio State can't really get to him as effectively, can he find open receivers? So this is going to be a big test for this Penn State offense, even though the Penn State pass offense is not really tops in the country, not really an elite pass offense. The run game is pretty solid here. So can they generate some of these big plays against a really stout Jim Knowles coach defense? So the computer model in this game has Ohio State favored by a score of roughly 29-27, giving them a 56% win probability in this game. So I think the last time I looked at it, the Vegas line had it at Ohio State favored by 4.5 of some kind. I want to say it's like 4.5, 4 points. I could be wrong. But the model has done very well this year. Straight up, it is hitting above 78%. Over the last couple of weeks against the spread, it's been pretty solid, actually, hitting above 60%. So I don't expect another week of hitting at 60%. And that is not sustainable, just to keep it 100% with you guys. As far as looking at the final score, I want everybody to understand that don't look at 29-27. Look at some of the things that I mentioned when I reviewed the offense versus defense on both teams. Penn State and their scoring rate, number 1 in the country. Can they generate those scoring opportunities against a really strong Ohio State defense? And can they also run the football effectively? Even though Ohio State is not one of the more disruptive teams in the country in defense stuff rate, Penn State's number 1 in offense stuff rate. So can they run the ball effectively against an Ohio State front that is very stingy, even though they're not really as disruptive? And can Ohio State, for their offense, are they able to, generate some runs against a really good Penn State team? Ohio State's offense is not really the best, one of the best teams at running the football in rushing offense per game due to EPA. But they are very good as far as the offensive line goes, in the top 20 in the country, I believe, in offensive line yards. And they also don't allow too many runs stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage as well. And they're also going to go up against a Penn State defense that is number 1 in defense sack rate. So can they keep Kyle McCord upright? And also, are they able to win on early down EPA as well? They're going up against a really good Penn State defense that is number 1 in early down EPA defense. And Ohio State's one of the best teams in the country in early downs as well. So look for those type of matchups in this game, not necessarily what the projected score is. So in a game like this, where there's a lot of unknowns, and the unknowns that I'm talking about is the health of Ohio State. There are already concerns at running back. Travion Henderson has been out for a while. Emeka Egbuka has been out as well. Those two guys did not make the trip to Purdue. And they also had some guys out in that game as well. Williams, he was ruled out of the pregame. Chip Trainum shouldered the load, and he was out in the game against Purdue. He suffered a concussion, I believe. And Hayden at running back, who was, I think, 4th guy on the depth chart, carried it. I think he had 11 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. So if he's going to get first team reps, then you can assume that Ohio State is going to be fine. But I think that is a bit of a drop off, especially when you go from Henderson to Williams to Trainum and now to Hayden. Hayden's a good player, but I don't think he's as good as those 3 that I mentioned before. And then you couple the fact that you also lose Denzel Burke, which I did not mention when I talked about the advanced box score in the Purdue game. So you lose your number 1 corner as well in the 3rd quarter, and he didn't, return to the sideline. So the health of Ohio State gives me a lot of concern about this game. So it makes me want to lean Penn State, to be just being transparent. It makes me want to lean Penn State because it looks like Penn State has a lot going for them. I think they are playing really good ball at the right time. The defense is playing very well. They can generate pressure, especially if Ohio State is going to be one-dimensional if they cannot run the football and show that balance that they have had this year. So far this year, I believe Ohio State is at I think they're 51-49 pass to run ratio, so almost 50-50. They're like right there, but they are generally they lean more towards the passing game than they do the running game. But when you have the wide receivers that they have, it makes a lot of sense. So in a game like this, I typically lean to the home favorite. And in a game like this, I don't think Ohio State, with the players that they have available, I don't think they're going to be able to cover this game. So I would pick Ohio. I'm picking Ohio State here to the score of 27-24. I think they're going to show just enough on offense, and I could see this game in the fourth quarter like a one-score game heading into the fourth quarter. And it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be nip and tuck throughout. Neither team can pull away from each other. Both defenses are going to be the showcase. And one of the things that can kind of flip that can kind of turn the tide for Ohio State would be like a special teams play, like a punt return or a muffed punt that can give Ohio State a short field and eventually, be able to punch it in the end zone, and that would eventually be the difference in the game here. So I got Ohio State winning this game by a score of 27-24. And with that being said, that would be a wrap for this game preview. Let me know what your thoughts are in the game in the comment section below. Give me your score prediction, even if you agree or disagree. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give the video a like and also share the video. And I will see you on the next video. Thank you very much for visiting the channel, and have a great week.